Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today we have a slew of Steelers topics to discuss on today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors. First up, I've got 5 Steelers players that I think could become stars with the black and gold this year. Then we'll get into a new report from a Steelers insider that says the Steelers are likely out on going out and getting Gabe Davis in NFL free agency. And we'll finish up today's show with a couple of examples of how the Bengals are once again bungling their roster situation as Trey Hendrickson, their star pass rusher, is not at training camp. But before we get into the content today, get us started down there in the comments section and let me know which Steelers player is going to become a star this season. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Now let's start with my list of guys that I think could become stars with the Steelers this year, and I'd like to start with the man in the middle, Payton Wilson, the third-round pick out of NC State last year. Really had a good rookie season. He wasn't asked to do too much. He wasn't asked to take on an every down role in this defense last year, and because of that, he what he was asked to do, he did at a pretty darn high level, a 74.0 PFF grade last season. That was the 17th highest among linebackers in the league last year, and that was the highest on the Steelers roster, in fact. So you can make an argument Payton Wilson was actually the best linebacker period on the Steelers roster last year, but he only played in a limited role because he came into the league a little bit undersized for an inside linebacker. They wanted him to focus more on the coverage aspects of the position, and he came in on pass-heavy downs and replacing Landon Roberts, who, as we know, wasn't the best coverage player, but was excellent in those run defense type of situations. So Payton Wilson did a really good job in his role, but this year he is stepping into an every down role where he will be on the field for most of the Steelers defensive snaps, and I think that he's got a chance to not only, be a really good piece alongside Patrick Queen, but probably even be the best linebacker in the Steelers linebacker room, period, even over Patrick Queen, who was just ranked the 75th best player overall by his peers in the National Football League top 100 list. And this year, Wilson is up to 242 pounds. That's 12 pounds heavier than Patrick Queen, and that's 8 pounds higher than where he was last year. So he is ready for that every down role, and he is ready to be that every facet of the game type of linebacker. You want him to blitz. He played quite a bit of edge rusher at NC State. You want him to be a run defender. He's got the size to take on blocks. If you want him to play in coverage, he is an excellent coverage player. He proved that last year with this Steelers defense. And even a guy like future Hall of Famer Luke Kuechly loves Wilson's game. He has said on a number of occasions how much he loves Payton Wilson's game and how he thinks that Payton Wilson could be the next him. All right, this is what Luke Kuechly had to say about Payton Wilson. At the draft, I always look at linebackers, and there's a guy that I've loved watching for a long time up at NC State, Payton Wilson. He ran extremely well. He was in the 4.4s, and he's been super productive, and he plays really hard. He's taller than me, and he's faster than me. And that was on the Kay Adams show where Kay Adams actually compared Payton Wilson to Luke Kuechly's game. And he was saying, I think this guy could be even better than I was, which is very, very big praise from one of the best linebackers over the last 20 years in the National Football League. And I just think the big thing with Wilson is staying healthy, all right? The big concern and one of the reasons why Wilson fell to the third round to the Steelers was because he's got a pretty extensive injury history. Now, last year, because he was in a little bit more of a limited role, he was able to stay healthy for the entire season, and that would be great if that could happen again this year. And if he can stay healthy this season, guys, I think we might be looking at one of the next star linebackers in the National Football League and one of the best defenders on the Steelers defense, period, this year. Then we get to another guy that has maybe some injury concerns, but somebody that I have a lot of confidence in when he's on the field, and that is Troy Fuantano, their first-round pick out of Washington 2 seasons ago. And last year, he really did a good job when he was on the field, right? He had that one game against the Denver Broncos, didn't allow a single sack, did a really good job against that pretty darn good Denver Broncos defense. And when he's on the field, guys, he is awesome, all right? He's great as a run defender. He's got a really, really good body presence, all right? What I mean by that is that he's built low to the ground, but he's got good arm length, so he's always going to win the leverage battle. He plays with really good power, and he's a fantastic athlete, all right? So I really love what he brings to the table. He's a fantastic pass protector as well, really good feet and pass protection, really good hand usage as well. When he's on the field, I have no question marks surrounding Troy Fuantano, but like Wilson, Fuantano's biggest concern and the biggest question mark surrounding him heading into this year is his health. All right, multiple teams in the NFL flagged him for an injury concern with his knee in the draft last year, and then lo and behold, after one game as a pro last year, he misses the rest of the season with a knee injury. So the big question with him is, are those knee issues chronic? Are they degenerative? Is it going to be something that sticks around with Fuantano his entire career, and can the Steelers really rely on him to stay on the field? We're going to get some answers to those questions this year. Another player that I have a lot of confidence in heading into the year is rookie running back Caleb Johnson, who I think is the perfect fit for Arthur Smith's zone rushing scheme. This offense here in Pittsburgh, it's going to look a lot similar to what Johnson had to work with at Iowa, because it was a lot of 2 and 3 tight end personnel there at Iowa. They played a lot of heavy personnel. It was a lot of under center run game, and it was a lot of zone run game. And I thought Caleb Johnson had an argument outside of Ashton Genty as far as being the best zone rusher in the draft. His patience, his vision, his ability to hit the hole and get to the second level, and then when he gets to that second level, have the speed and explosiveness to really break off long runs and even long touchdown runs is really, really special. All right, and in this offense, it works best, as we know, with Arthur Smith, when there is a foundation of a strong run game. The best offense he ever had was in 2020 when Derrick Henry was his star running back. Now, obviously, Caleb Johnson's not Derrick Henry size-wise. He's 20 pounds lighter, but he's still a big back that's got really big play potential. And I think that if he can come out of the gates running this year, no pun intended, I think that this guy could completely transform the Steelers' offense into one of, if not the best offense we have seen from the Steelers probably since the Killer B era was at its prime. Then we get to another guy I like a lot. Some Steelers fans are lower on him because he does have the grab issues and the penalty issues and some of that stuff. But Joey Porter Jr., man, I think this guy has shown legit shutdown potential in his 2 years in the National Football League. Now, yes, he does have some of those grabby issues, all right, and he does have too many penalties, and he had some bad games last year. He also dealt with some injuries last year. Not a lot of people talk about that, but we've seen Joey Porter Jr. shut down legit number 1 wide receivers in this league before, and I think with the tutelage that he's going to be getting from not one, but 2 former All-Pros playing beside him this year in Jalen Ramsey and Darius Slay, and not to mention the new DB coach here, Gerald Alexander, I think it's going to be huge for Joey Porter Jr.'s development. And the best corners in the league, Patrick Surtain, Charvarius Ward, Sauce Gardner, these are the guys that play really physical, and they play a really physical brand of football. Joey Porter Jr. plays that same kind of brand of football. So I think Joey, when he's playing at his best, the Steelers' defense is at its best because you can just trust him out on an island, which allows the rest of the defense to shift their coverage to the rest of the formation. It's a huge addition to this defense when Joey is playing at his best. And I think this year might be finally the year where he becomes a bona fide star lockdown corner in the National Football League. Final star in the making that I want to talk about on today's show is Roman Wilson. Now, I maybe star is a little bit of a stretch for a guy like Roman because I don't think he has legit number 1 receiver upside. I think he has the potential to be a really nice piece as a starter, though, and I think that he could step into that legit wide receiver 2 role at some point this season. He's got legit potential to be that wide receiver 2 in this offense with the way he run blocks, with the way that he can get open quickly, with his acceleration being as special as it is. It's really good on those crossing routes that we're going to see a lot from Arthur Smith this year, and he's got super reliable hands, and he consistently catches the ball with his hands and not with his body, and for a smaller wide receiver, that is a big-time trait to have. And, I think that the opportunity to become the legit wide receiver 2 here in Pittsburgh is certainly there. Now, you might be saying, but Zach Azzani, the wide receiver coach, already proclaimed Calvin Austin III as the number 2 receiver here in Pittsburgh. That's not changing, and that might be the case, but Calvin is so tiny that he doesn't provide any value when it comes to run blocking. And, of course, when the Steelers are in their 12 personnel packages on early downs, when they want their wide receivers to run block, they're going to put somebody else out there like they did with Van Jefferson last year. Van Jefferson was a parking cone last year, and they still preferred to play him on those early downs over Calvin. So Roman and Robert Woods, I would say, are the 2 guys that are going to get the most opportunity to play that second wide receiver role on early downs this year. And if Roman turns into a really good receiving piece as well, he's going to get even more snaps than Calvin Austin III in this offense this year. So the opportunity is certainly there for Roman Wilson to take the next step. So who's going to be the wide receiver 2 here in Pittsburgh? Type CA3 if you think it's going to be Calvin. Type RW if you think Roman Wilson takes that job this year. Or type BT if you think Bobby Trees. Or if there's somebody else you think they're going to bring in a receiver this year, let me know who that is down there in the comments section for today's pinned question. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time. But let me know who the number 2 receiver is going to be in Pittsburgh this year. All right, so I want to give you guys a little bit of an outlook here from our friends at Fanatics, where they guys have a brand new Steelers sweatshirt available on their website. And right now you can get it for 50% off, just in time for Steelers training camp and just in time for the start of the preseason. You can go chatsports.com/PittHoodie. That link is down in the comments and description of today's show. And if you use that link and you make a purchase, Fanatics sends us part of the proceeds. So you guys win because you're getting a new Steelers sweatshirt, 50% off. We're winning because we get part of the proceeds from Fanatics. So if you guys want kind of that win-win scenario right now, you can get 50% off this new Steelers sweatshirt in your closet today when you go to chatsports.com/PittHoodie. So Steelers insider Mark Caboli, he works for the Pat McAfee show, says that the Steelers are likely, quote-unquote, out on signing wide receiver Gabe Davis after they invited him on a free agency visit earlier this offseason. This is what Caboli had to say on the possibility of the Steelers signing Davis. Quote, I think we can pretty much say that Gabe Davis is out. I mean, if they wanted him, they would have signed him already, unquote. So, guys, I'm not quite as convinced as Caboli that they are completely out on Gabe Davis. The way I would describe the way the Steelers are kind of approaching their wide receiver position right now is that they're in wait-and-see mode, all right? And they want to go into camp, and they want to see what their current collection of secondary wide receivers are able to do. Now, I think that DK Metcalf and Calvin Austin III's roles are pretty well defined. DK is their every down, number 1 wide receiver, that quote-unquote A.J. Brown receiver in this Arthur Smith offense. And Calvin is going to be more of your dynamic receiving threat that comes in on pass-heavy down, somebody that can play both inside and out, somebody that can threaten to all 3 levels of the field, somebody that can be a reliable target in those pass-heavy situations for Aaron Rodgers throughout the year. So those 2 guys, I think those 2 roles are well defined, but Pittsburgh still needs someone to step up into that quote-unquote wide receiver 2 role on early downs when they're going to be in 12 personnel, where they have 2 receivers on the field, but they want both of those receivers to be able to run block. DK Metcalf, we know, is going to be able to provide that, but Calvin Austin III, even though he might be their second best receiver on the team, he brings really no value as a run blocker. So the Steelers are really hoping that either A, Robert Woods, who's going to be the veteran option and probably gets the first crack at the job once we get to Latrobe, or Roman Wilson could take that job away from him if he has a good camp and good preseason. That's why I'm going to be watching Roman Wilson particularly closely this year, because I think that he could take that job pretty easily from Robert Woods before the start of the season. But if neither Robert Woods or Roman Wilson are good enough to take that role week 1, I do think that's when the Steelers would consider bringing in a guy like Gabe Davis, who you would know would be a good run blocker. He's been one of the best run blocking receivers in the league since he entered. He's also another big body deep threat, kind of similar and kind of redundant to DK Metcalf's skill set. But if they need somebody to come in and be that second run blocking wide receiver, you know Gabe Davis can provide that. So that's kind of the scenario where I could see Gabe Davis landing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But before we get into the rest of today's show, guys, click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you're having a good time, you love talking Steelers football, and you appreciate the insight and the nuance and the context that we provide on this channel, we greatly appreciate your guys' support. All right, so our final topic today that we want to discuss is the Bengals, all right? The Bengals are now in shambles because they are in the middle of not 1, but 2 active contract disputes, even though their team is already reported to training camp this week. And lo and behold, it's at the same position, at edge rusher. Their superstar edge, Trey Hendrickson, has not come to terms on an extension. He's currently in Jacksonville, Florida, working out there because he does not have a deal done with Cincinnati. And then Shamar Stewart, their first-round pick, does not have a deal done. So So let's start here with Trey Hendrickson and what's going on there in Cincinnati. This is what Jordan Schultz from Fox Sports had to report. The Bengals and all-pro defensive end Trey Hendrickson made attempts over the past few days to re-engage on a new deal, but talks failed to gain serious momentum. Both sides are dug in and frustrated. I'm told there are key differences between the two sides, and there's currently no clear path to a resolution. Then just minutes later, he said this: I'm told the key issue in the Bengals-Trey Hendrickson negotiations has been the length of the commitment and the guarantees tied to a potential new deal. Both sides remain stuck. The Bengals want to stick to their structure. Hendrickson wants something that reflects his value. So far, no common ground has been found, and as a result, Hendrickson is holding out of training camp. And then this afternoon, Schultz gave us another update here, saying multiple sources described the last round of talks between Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals as quote-unquote very contentious, and that it's been a quote-unquote very difficult negotiation all offseason long. Hendrickson has publicly said he won't play this season without a new deal, and the team is aware. Talks hit a major impasse on Monday, and I'm told it's quote-unquote unknown when they'll resume. So that does not look like a good situation between Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals right now. And as you guys can see here, Trey Hendrickson posted this on his Instagram story earlier today that he is currently in Florida, specifically Jacksonville, Florida. He and his wife, I guess, took a little trip to Florida because they didn't want the distraction of being in Cincinnati. What's that? He's from Jacksonville. All right, so shout out to producer Coop with that insight right there. But for what it's worth here, guys, our favorite People's Insider, Ricky, says that a deal between Hendrickson and the Bengals will still happen. He made it seem like yesterday, guys, that a deal was going to get done on Monday, where he posted this: trade day update. Sounds like the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson are working hard to get a new deal done, possibly as soon as today. This was yesterday, by the way. Both sides are pushing to finalize an extension this afternoon, almost there. But then today, once the Schultz report came in, he posted this. It looked like we were heading towards an agreement yesterday, and talks stalled. WBS hits a speed bump. I think that means white boy summer. Sorry, Bengals fans, still feel good. It gets done. So Ricky's still saying that he thinks it's going to get done. But what I can tell you right now, guys, is that the Cincinnati Bengals cannot afford to lose Trey Hendrickson, all right? If they go into this season without Hendrickson on the roster, they are going to be in major trouble, all right? And a good way to kind of illustrate that is this tweet from Warren Sharp, where you guys can see where they ranked when Trey Hendrickson was not on the field the last 2 years. They are dead last in pressure rate, dead last in completion percentage allowed, dead last in success rate, and dead last in passer rating. And even with Trey Hendrickson on the field, guys, we've talked about this on the channel, the Bengals defense is not very good, all right? This defense gave up a ton of points last year, and even despite Joe Burrow having arguably an MVP caliber season, they only won 9 games and missed the playoffs. And if they miss Trey Hendrickson this year and he gets traded away, or if he's not playing for them, expect these numbers to dip even lower than where they were in 2024, which is going to spell trouble for the Bengals in the AFC North. But despite all that, guys, I can't completely rule out a trade. Even though the Bengals definitely need him on their roster, it seems like the way that they have negotiated this potential new extension has really turned off Trey Hendrickson. He's not even in Cincinnati right now, all right? He's in Florida. So even if he signs a deal, it's going to take a day to get back to Cincinnati. So it doesn't seem like things are going too well between those two sides. So we'll see if they end up coming to a deal. But then there's another contract dispute going on right now and another training camp holdout, this time with their first-round pick out of Texas A&M, edge rusher Shamar Stewart, okay? And right now, Shamar Stewart is threatening to take a year off and then re-enter the NFL draft in 2026, which would be completely unprecedented. Now, right now, the dispute between Stewart and the Bengals is that Cincinnati wants guarantee voids tied to the contract. So if Shamar Stewart gets charged with conduct detrimental to the team, or if he ends up in prison, the Bengals don't have to pay out the guarantees left on his deal. This is what Mike Brown, the owner of the team, had to say on the matter. If we get a player who gets involved in conduct detrimental to the team or does something that is just unacceptable, guess what? I don't want to pay him. I really don't. If he's sitting in jail, I don't think I ought to be paying him. There is no dispute over the money. It's just a dispute in his mind that I guess if he did something that really deserved punishment, that he would want the whole contract guaranteed. Now, listen, man, it sounds like Stewart is not budging on this issue. He talked with Cincinnati reporters earlier this offseason, and he had this to say. I'm 100% right. I'm not asking for nothing the Bengals have never done before. But in the Bengals' case, the team just wants to win arguments more than winning more games. So it definitely seems like that relationship is starting to hit the skids as well. And Shamar Stewart right now is currently at the Texas A&M campus working out with the team. Now, he can't play for Texas A&M this year. He can't go back to college like some people have alluded to. He can only sit out the year and then re-enter the NFL draft. But that really is his options at this point. He either signs the guaranteed void contract structure that the Bengals have given to him, or he sits out this season and re-enters the draft next year where he can be drafted by a different NFL team. Now, selfishly, as a Steelers fan, I hope Stewart picks option number 2, and I hope Trey Hendrickson demands a trade out of Cincinnati as well, because that would be fantastic for the prospects of the Pittsburgh Steelers in the AFC North. But I will give you guys a little bit of a heads up. Even though things do seem ugly right now, the most likely scenario at this point, I still believe, is that Hendrickson and Stewart both come to terms with the team before week 1, and they will both be wearing Bengals uniforms when they play their season opener in just a few short weeks. But also, not just the Cincinnati Bengals are in shambles, the Cleveland Browns are in shambles like they always are. Quinshon Judkins, their second-round pick and was supposed to be their number 1 player on offense this year, has also not signed his rookie deal yet. He's currently dealing with some legal issues, let's call them, and right now he has not signed his rookie contract, and it's unknown if he will sign his rookie contract. So you absolutely love to see the Browns and Bengals, fumbling the ball yet again. The Bengals right now are completely wasting, an elite quarterback talent in Joe Burrow. You love that. And then the Browns are the Browns, and they are a complete mess. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Which team is the bigger joke? The Bengals, who are wasting an elite quarterback right now, or the Browns, who just can't seem to get anything right? Type CIN for Cincinnati, or type CLE for the Cleveland Steamers. That'll be it for today's edition of Steelers News and Rumors. I know today was a little bit of a longer one, but we're going to have even more extensive Steelers coverage once Cassie and I get to Latrobe on Wednesday night. And, of course, we will be there for the first day of Steelers training camp practice on Thursday afternoon. So click that subscribe button if you haven't already for more Steelers training camp coverage throughout the week.